So here's your lesson for vocab. It's a Wednesday and it's a word day. The students who have been with me, you guys remember it's been a kind of a ritual since last year that we are working on words every Wednesday. We had some great activities last year, and I am planning to continue that because the fruits it has borne for me as teacher. Most of my students who were quite plain about words and their use in application, I have seen a drastic improvement. So I'm planning to continue my lessons in the similar uh, momentum. So what we will be talking about today is again a bit of something journal, but after this I might uh, cover another video which will be talking about some figurative expressions, because last time I could see the list of words that we had discussed. My tendency was towards the literal part of those words, but this time round I am planning that I should be talking about some figurative expressions as well, maybe adding new ones to your knowledge, or we will be revising something from our past lessons. And remember, every vocab lesson should be incorporated in the writings you do. That's my instruction ever since you people have been my students, and any other students that I teach. I always ask them to use the words that they are studying. They are not only for these videos and your copies and books, they are basically for using and the usage. Okay, so what should I talk about? The importance of vocab. As a teacher, I should be saying that because teaching structure and grammar is also my uh, part and parcel of my teaching, and I always try for the accuracy of writings of my students, and grammar is important. But just for the sake of highlighting the importance of vocab, I want to say this, that people with broken English, with no clear idea of the structures and all, can still communicate. They can get their message across, but when you are short of words, it becomes quite difficult to say what you really want to say. So it's very important to have lots of words so that you can communicate smoothly. And this lesson is definitely um, in that connection, so that you can have words and your vocab could be enhanced. So take your vocab lesson seriously, because I can see there's an issue of seriousness now. You guys are finding these lessons very glamorous to become part of my Zoom meetings, to subscribe the YouTube, to be there on the lives of my FB, but the seriousness actually is missing. Don't take it as something glamorous. You really need to do something in these lessons. I want your attention and I want your response in the manner I want it. So please do cooperate with me. Come back to the lesson. So we will start with the heading vocab lesson. Vocab is basically vocabulary. It has to do with words, and then words have again types based on their application, on their nature, and on their context. Okay, these are the three types, or these are the three bases on which we differentiate between the type of vocab that we use. As far as application is concerned, if you see, when you read words and you can recognize them only, but you are not using those words quite often in your communication or in your everyday life, so those words are called, or that vocab is called passive. Okay, passive is basically something which is the opposite or antonym of active. Something which is not very energetic, something which is somber and underlying, you can say not very visible or low key. So those words which you can only recognize, I mean, they are somewhere at the back of your mind, or you can somehow contextually understand what they actually mean in the whole context. That is passive vocab. The words that you use quite often is said to be an active vocab, and the words which have died in language, and there are many words which are no more used, I wish I had that proper example for that particular word which are said to be, or words that are said to be obsolete. But there is a category of vocab or words you can say which have died. They are no more in the language. So this is the category of vocab based on its application. The words that you can recognize, somehow manage and deal with are passive. The words which you use quite often are active, and the words which are no more part of language are called obsolete. Okay, if you look at the next thing, this is the next base, you can say, or the basis on which the vocab is categorized. It's nature. You guys know this. Every day AKU or high school students have to do a lot about these two things. You keep listening to these words by teachers. You use them, literal and figurative. Literal and figurative are the classification or the types which have to do with its with the meaning of the words, literal meaning and figurative meaning. I will just give one example here, and then most of you who already know that, that's something that you would understand, and the students who are new to it, with this one little example will help you hopefully. So there's a figurative expressions called on cloud nine. On cloud nine means being elated and extremely happy. Now if I use that in a sentence, that I was on cloud nine when I was promoted to my next class. So how can somebody in a real life be on a cloud? That's the question. So this is basically a figurative expression which is opposite to literal expression, because literal is something worldly, logical. Okay, cloud is something from where we get rain, and it is usually too high, that too high for any human to be on it. So figurative expressions are usually opposite to literal, and they usually indicate a different meaning from the chosen words that have said such things. So that's the literal and figurative types of meanings of words. We are talking about the categories of vocab based on these things. And the last one is about context, in the way the words are used in the environment, at the place. That is the standard, colloquial and slang. Standard language is used for in the social settings where there is elite class that communicates, like professors, like scholars. They, and the books especially, they have standard language. Then we have colloquial language, which is of common speakers. You and I, we speak in a language which is colloquial. Mostly it is standard because our setting is different. We meet as teacher and student, but still it is not so bookish whatever we speak and write. Slang is a category which usually belongs to a class which is said to be lower in social circle, and this language is usually said to be substandard and cheap. And too frank, you can say, too frank. So these are the categories of vocab based on the context in the social setting we speak in. So these are the categories. Now when you will be using the vocab, you will have to keep few things in your mind. The one is pronunciation, how they should be sounding. Another one is meaning. That meaning could be literal, figurative or contextual. Most of you already know what the contextual meaning of, or what the contextual clues can do in order to reach the right meaning of the words. Your literal and figurative both could be contextual. We will be talking about in detail. Then the last thing is the grammatical function of the word, the placement of the word in the sentence. That's very important to know. So this was all about vocab lesson for today. If I have to cover another video to share new figurative expressions with you, as I said earlier, so I'll be doing that and I'll be sharing it. So in the next Zoom meeting you can have questions from this lesson as well. So thank you.